After seeing the devastation of hurricanes that were striking in Florida and North Carolina recently, resort operators are thinking about insurance in a whole new light. So we're hoping to clarify some key insurance questions that you may have as you operate your resorts. And I hope you enjoy this session, and do leave a comment below if you have any further questions. I'm Sharon Scott Wilson. I'm editor and publisher of Resort Trades. We're a media group that we serve professionals in the resort industry. So if you wish to remain current with resort industry news, people, trends, movement in the industry, please go to resorttrades.com, catch up with everything that is going on. And while you're there, please subscribe to our e-magazine, Resort Trades Weekly. Now, we feel it's very timely. We've asked Matt Stauffer, Vice President of Gregory Appel Insurance, to share some advice with resort operators. And I think he's got some great stuff to share with you. So welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you. And thank you for that introduction. And thank you for everything you do. I've mentioned it once before. I've watched a lot of your videos. It's helped me grow tremendously as a professional. So keep up the excellent work. And it's a true honor to be part of this today.
Well, thank you. And it's a pleasure to have you too. I think this is very timely information. So before we actually get into the meat of what you're going to share, I saw that you were very committed to helping your resort clients. So what makes you so passionate about resorts and timeshare properties?
Oh, my goodness. That is a wonderful question, something I could talk to at great length. But, I'm passionate about the resort, the hospitality and timeshare industries because, honestly, I've seen firsthand how much they contribute to creating great memories for families. For myself, it was Myrtle Beach in the 80s. It was Keystone, Colorado in the 90s. And, just creating family memories that far exceed any scrapbook. And personally, my wife and I, we've got a goal to get our 3 kids to all 50 states before they graduate college. We love to travel. We love new experiences. And professionally, it's just phenomenal that I'm able to align all of this because my goal as an insurance consultant is simply to ensure that businesses behind these experiences are protected and thriving. And it's a tough task in today's environment, whether it's navigating coverage needs, avoiding last minute surprises, or even tackling rising costs. I'm driven and our team is driven to really challenge the insurance marketplace and elevate how these industries are represented. And one of the beautiful things, about this hospitality space, and I know you know this, but it's a space that literally welcomes guests as an occupation, right? It's about collaboration and really working together and rolling up our sleeves to try to even further improve this industry. And I just love what I'm seeing from associations out there, everything that you're doing. It's just a really exciting time to be part of this industry.
Oh, that's great. You sound like you really got your hands full keeping up with all the nuances. And so I wonder, what are some of the biggest challenges resort and timeshare owners are facing in the current commercial property insurance market?
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's a lot, right? I mean, it's a constantly evolving environment. The insurance landscape is constantly changing. So there's a lot to keep tabs on. Rising premiums, I think this is something that we've all personally felt with home insurance and auto, but then also in the resort space. This is one of the biggest challenges, and a lot of it's driven from more frequent severe weather events. You've got hurricanes, floods, wildfires. Insurers are seeing higher claims, which in turn is going to drive up costs for policyholders. And it's especially tough for resorts and timeshares due to the fact that a lot of them are going to be located in higher risk areas. This also leads into capacity limitations. A lot of insurance companies are simply reducing their capacity or withdrawing from markets altogether, especially those that have higher exposure to natural disasters. So that means fewer options for resort owners looking to get comprehensive coverage. And it makes it more difficult to find policies that cover all of their needs. Also, higher deductibles. A lot of carriers are introducing higher deductibles. And I think this is something that doesn't get enough attention because if you're in a hurricane-prone area and they give you a 5% named storm deductible and you've got a $12 million building. Well, that's a $600,000 deductible.
Wow.
So you need to make sure you have proper reserves. And it's just a lot of conversations I don't think are happening quite enough. So I'm glad, again, to have an opportunity like today. And then insurance gaps, with rising cost, a lot of people are trying to cut corners and lower coverage to get lower premiums in return. And, there are ways to trim costs, but, you don't want to see glaring red flags or gaps in there that can expose you even further. And just navigating these challenges all together, it requires not just a good insurance policy, but a full comprehensive risk management approach. So you want to, have coverage solutions top to bottom. You want to have a team that's prepared and proactive when it comes to the claims management side of things. And also someone that has deep relationships with the carriers, so we can actually cast a wide net, have market depth, and find the best possible terms in this challenging market.
Yeah, particularly, of course, in Florida, where so many timeshare resorts are based.
You bring up a great point. Of the 1,500 or so timeshare properties in the United States, I think 360 or so are based in Florida. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of these coastal areas are where people go. I know myself personally, that's an area we want to travel as a family, and I don't foresee that ending anytime soon. So right. It's part of it.
Particularly as winter approaches.
You read my mind.
Right. So now you've mentioned that your firm, Gregory Appel Insurance, that you've developed some proactive strategies for risk management. So I'd be very interested to hear if you have any examples of how your team's helping resorts mitigate risks related to the catastrophic weather events that we've seen of late.
Yeah, and it really just depends on where you're located from a regional standpoint. But at the end of the day, an insurance policy might be the avenue that gets our foot in the door. But really, what we pride ourselves on is that full, all-encompassing risk management. So property fortification, right? Risk assessment. We walk properties for these very reasons because we can learn a lot about a resort property by examining their insurance policy. But until we step foot on the property and we get to know the personnel and maybe even attend board meetings, it really takes that to peel the curtain back and really get a true understanding so we can better tell the story, right? Articulate what makes properties different and better than some of their competitors, because at the end of the day, that's what underwriters need to understand. But we also take it another
too, actually showing up in person.
It means the world, especially to underwriters. It's really interesting when they're giving pushback on building updates or, when the roof was last replaced. And when I'm showing them pictures that I took personally, the underwriter's tone changes, right? They understand that we do know property and we're not just trying to, get the lowest price possible. We're actually thinking strategically on what improvements have they done and how can we benefit that in the marketplace. But risk management, it even expands further than that. Emergency planning, crisis response plans. We work closely with our resort partners to develop disaster preparedness plans, protocols for evacuation, communication, recovery. Anything we can do to minimize operational downtime during extreme weather events is going to be beneficial to our clients. And then obviously the insurance component, right? Portfolio optimization. We want to help optimize their insurance programs and ensure they have the right mix of coverage for, whether it be floods, hurricanes, or other natural events to minimize out-of-pocket exposure. And really, it just depends on what part of the country we're working with.
Well, now, Matt, as you and I discussed, we don't want this to look like a big ad piece, but I think you brought up a lot of things that someone in charge of seeking insurance or looking at their insurance package that their resort is currently has. You mentioned creative coverage options like parametric insurance and captives. That sounds like Greek to me, but can you explain how these options work and how they benefit resort and timeshare owners?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because I think when insurance terminology sounds foreign, it might be new. It might show a sign that the insurance industry is innovative, which, in years past has kind of lacked, but it's definitely getting more creative out there because a lot of carriers, as they tighten up their underwriting restrictions or appetites, they're carving out or outright excluding certain coverages. So parametric insurance, it's one that it'll actually pay out on a specific event. So maybe it's a wind speed or rainfall amount rather than waiting on a traditional claim process. And this provides resorts and timeshares with faster predetermined payouts after these weather events, which helps speed up the recovery, which at the end of the day is one of the most critical aspects here. And it's a creative solution to limit or reduce premium, that total insurance spend, and get around some of the exclusions that we're seeing more frequently, especially as it relates to things like wildfire. We can actually set a parametric to include coverage, and we can actually, really define the terms around that and take that away from the carrier and actually put that into our control. Then you also have captive insurance, which is gaining more and more momentum. It allows groups to create their own insurance company, essentially, to cover specific risk and possibly reduce premiums. But without question, it does help give you better control and really establishes more best practices amongst similar like-minded companies.
Wow, that sounds really ideal. Imagine that's particularly for larger companies, could really make a difference for them. So how do you educate your clients? What role does client education play in the insurance market, would you say?
I would put that up there as one of the most important. Insurance, we kind of made the joke earlier, some of the terminology, it does sound like a foreign language. They love acronyms as well. But, the education, look, clients make the best decisions, when they are well informed and educated. So we want to prioritize keeping them informed, especially as it relates to market trends. Because if you have no idea premiums going up and all of a sudden, a few weeks before your renewal, you see that your property premiums have increased 40%, that's not going to sit well with anyone, especially when we're involving boards and multiple pieces here. So, if we can establish, e-newsletters, industry reports, personalized check-ins, we want to provide insights on factors that are going to impact your insurance spend, right? The premiums, your coverage needs, emerging risk, and we also offer educational sessions where we're able to dive into more specific topics, climate risk, policy innovation. So clients and board members can confidently make informed adjustments to their coverage strategies because, as I mentioned earlier, it's constantly evolving. It is constantly changing. And the whole insurance procurement process, it looks different today than it did in years past. And in the years to come, I think it's only going to continue to get tighter and tighter. So we need to all be involved. We need to be on the same page. We need to understand what options are out there. And we can only do this through conversation. And look, I get it. At the end of the day, insurance is a topic that's easy to dismiss or push back for another day, right? It's one that a lot of people want to avoid, but good things come from conversation and simply reviewing policies, breaking it down through casual conversation. It can be just as impactful. And we're seeing it yield much better returns because when everyone's on the same page, they're asking better questions. They're arming us with more information material to push back with carriers and really reshape the conversation. And I'm telling you right now, in 2024, that is one of the most critical pieces, is to get leverage and control back in your hands, because for far too long, it's really been dictated by an underwriter sitting behind a desk who's never stepped foot on your property. So we're really trying to work together and roll up our sleeves and really change that conversation.
Right. And while the thought occurs, how about these smaller legacy resorts? Do you have many clients that are in that category, or are you receptive to maybe attending board meetings that they might have and presenting what you do?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's a big piece of the puzzle, right? And aging infrastructure across the country, is a concern. And we've seen a lot of, laws and regulations start to get introduced, and Florida is really ground zero when it comes to that. But a lot of states are replicating and following suit. Florida established some things this year, and I've seen 7-8 other states, working on very similar things. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody handles it differently, especially with property management companies. But you need to have a relationship with some kind of insurance professional because it is a very complex area. And if you look at, the largest, budgetary spends, insurance is going to rank up there. So we want to be involved and we can kind of shield that conversation as well, because if we're delivering, coverage changes or premium increase, we want to be able to talk to the whys behind that. We also like to peel the curtain back, and sometimes we want to get underwriters more intimately involved, and maybe that requires a site visit or just getting them more working knowledge, because looking at something on a spreadsheet or expiring premium and policy structures, that's really not the best approach. That's you can recycle policies kind of year after year, but really you want to tailor, and make this more specific and really customize it to what their present needs are.
Well, particularly as you mentioned, the industry's apparently rapidly changing. Many of these older properties in particular, I'm sure they negotiated their insurance way before all of this, the latest innovations came available, and maybe they need to be more communicative with their insurance firm.
Yeah, and I get it. Insurance, it's not always going to be top of mind, but when you really open up the conversation to that all-encompassing risk management, it makes more sense. And if we're doing our job well, we're viewed as an extension of their team, and that's the end goal, right? We want to seat at the table. We want to be involved in the strategic planning because we can talk to return on investment on a lot of things that you're working to do. Whether it's upgrading a sprinkler system or whatever it may be, we can work with our carrier partners and say, listen, if they're going to spend X to get this done, what are we looking at from a premium standpoint? Is it going to yield a 10% premium savings? It may, so we want to explore those conversations, and it's hard to do if we're kept in the dark. So again, we want to be viewed as an extension of their team. And I think that's going to really be the ticket to getting the best results moving forward.
Okay. Well, now you've very generously prepared a few slides here about your organization. So why don't you explain a little bit about what you've got here?
I would love to. This first page, aside from my photo maybe being too large, two things jump out at me. And that is improve their bottom line. That's one of the biggest thing. And the other thing that sticks out to me on this page is the hard market, and that's what makes our aim even more important today. So, how can we work together to improve one's bottom line? From an insurance perspective, a lot of people dismiss that, but especially when you think of rising rates and premiums, it's more than insurance. Again, it circles back to that risk management, reducing expenses. So lowering cost in commercial insurance means using risk management strategies to reduce premiums and operational expenses. For example, wind mitigation studies or property surveys, these can lead to better underwriting terms, cutting insurance costs, and in turn boosting bottom line. So we can get some additional wins outside of just lowering premiums. So it really is a well-rounded here. And this is something that doesn't get enough attention, is really what's driving the higher cost. There's a lot of things I could touch on here. Rising reinsurance costs, higher construction and repair costs. We've all seen that. Litigation trends and legal costs. This is spiraling out of control, especially when you get that third-party financing. It's just a changing risk landscape. In the world of cybersecurity, think about cyber threats. It is really the wild, wild west when it comes to that. Something we need to pay attention to. That I mentioned earlier, the aging infrastructure. These things add complexity across the board. And then there's an increase in both frequency and severity of natural disasters. And this next slide, it illustrates that very well. I mean, this is just a simple snapshot of where we stand in 2024. Now, these are billion with a B. These are natural disasters that have cost at least $1 billion worth of damage in 2024. So where we sit today, 24 separate events. There's 11 severe weather events. So think thunderstorms, hail, strong winds, 5 tornadoes, 3 winter storms, 4 hurricanes, 2 recent ones with Helene and Milton, and then 1 wildfire. So This is widespread. And again, it's only outlining the billion-dollar events. And to put this in perspective, this year, 2024, we want to look back a little bit. So in the years 2000 to 2009, there were a total of 67 events that caused about $62 billion in damage. If you jump to 2010 to 2019, that number jumped to $131 billion events. That's a 290% increase.
Wow.
And that resulted economic impact of about $100 billion. And then if you fast forward the last 5 years, there have been 102 events with damages in excess of $120 billion. So it's undeniable at this point that the combination of more severe and more frequent catastrophic events, couple that with rising construction costs, and it's not doing us any favors. So we really do have to look at this differently and really hone in on geographical locations and regional risk.
And we'll go ahead and attach your slide deck to the YouTube description.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, this is something that you're seeing referenced more widely today, but it's one of those resources out there that I think a visual snapshot, and it's a clear representation of what's going on throughout the country, and this tracks in real time. So even the recent hurricanes are reflected here.
Wow.
Now, if you look at the United States, at least the lower 48, it's separated out into 9 regions. All right. And we all know no two properties are the same. No two regions are the same either. So you want to keep that in mind, especially for those that are looking to become a little more diverse from a geographical makeup standpoint and are expanding into new states. So this conversation, it needs to be top of mind. You know, I call the Ohio Valley. I'm in Indiana. We fall in the Ohio Valley. It's where I call home. We see flooding. We see winter storms. We see tornadoes and severe storms. So solutions for us would involve elevated construction, flood barriers, storm-resistant construction, and winterization. Now, when you think about those risks, you know, if I'm located on the West Coast, I probably have a completely different lineup of concerns. You know, you're probably thinking more earthquake, drought, wildfire. So absolutely right. So you just want to be mindful of that depending on the geographical location, it is going to alter your approach and really what options may be out there. And because of such a critical emphasis on this, we have put together a regional guide. It's a regional guide to property risk. It maps concerns. It outlines claim examples and solutions by region. So this is, you know, really, you can take action items out of this. So it paints a clear picture of what you might need to be aware of. And again, especially for breaking into a new market, this needs to be, definitely fitting and finding a way into some conversation.
That's great. And I see you've got a easy access for people to get this guide.
We do.
On your website.
QR code. Welcome 2024. Try to incorporate some little technology into that to make lives a little bit easier. But really, you know, I think this slide's important because Gregory Appel, as an organization, we opened our doors in 1884, but we believe in verticals, and this is the space that I really, you know, live in. It's the resort, timeshare, the hospitality space. And we've been doing this for over 30 years now. You know, we've got a great team. We've learned a thing or two. I think with every, you know, new claim scenario or natural disaster, we learn a lot, and we want to pass that knowledge over. A real life example here, we've got a case study. I think this is important because what can good look like? I think that a lot of people kind of expect mediocre when they talk about insurance, right? The bar is set rather low in a lot of situations. So this is a real life current client. We won a group of properties scattered across Florida, which again, one of the most difficult states to write insurance in. And it just took getting more and more involved. And as we, you know, really started to understand the properties more, we understood that a lot of information was incomplete. So underwriting was essentially penalizing them in terms of pricing. We were able to suggest and actually at our expense introduce a wind mitigation study. We felt this could really just prove beneficial. And a wind mitigation study, for anyone not familiar, it's going to assess a building's ability to withstand strong winds by looking at roof strength, how doors and windows are secured, And all locations were surveyed. And after securing coverage, this actually resulted in a $200,000 premium decrease. Wow. So by just providing more information than the underwriters initially requested, we were able to get a $200,000 premium savings after we bound coverage. So coverage was in place. Everybody was happy. We dug a little bit deeper. We brought in some true experts that could help differentiate this property and highlight what they were doing well. And it resulted in a rather significant premium savings. So I think one of the reasons people don't want to talk insurance is we ask for things and we give homework assignments, right? We need loss review. We need policy copies. I get it. It's a laundry list of items and we feel needy, but honestly, the more information we have, the more angles, we can really explore in terms of reducing your premium spend, but also improving coverage. So again, don't be, standoffish if we're requesting information. It's not just because we're nosy and we want to see it. No, it is genuinely to better your program. And the more information we have, the better we can do. So, when you start talking about premium saves of $200,000, you get people's attention. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll get you what you need. But it's not always that easy. But there is a rhyme and reason why we request certain information. And it's because we've learned how to kind of do the song and dance that it takes to secure coverage in today's market.
Well, again, I think it goes to show you have a lot of commitment to what you're doing. So I applaud you on that.
Well, thank you. And I'm fortunate that I'm excited every morning I wake up to come to work. It really is a blessing. So I'm grateful for that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And then the last slide here, really, it's not as simple as a 1, 2, 3 step, process, but there are things that we want to highlight that you should expect from any insurance professionals that you work with, right? You want them to show up. You want them to be involved. Again, I'll mention it again. If we're doing our job well, we're viewed as an extension of your team. And that's the goal. We want to be actively involved, but it takes walking the properties and seeing them firsthand to really do that. And then success at renewal. We want to arm underwriting with all the whys that make your property different and better than your competitors. We want you to stand out. And if an underwriter has 20 applications on their desk, 20 submissions that they're supposed to quote, we want you to be the top of that list. Just like we do if a claim happens. We want you to be at the top of that file so you get paid out quicker. So again, a rhyme and a reason to that. And then the personal approach. Insurance can be dull. I'm not going to deny that. And if I hand you a 400-page policy, you're probably not going to read it. And if you are, it won't be met with much enthusiasm. So we want to change that.
Have an element of trust.
Yeah, you do. They're complex. They're confusing. A lot of times they'll strip out coverage and then sneak it back in later. So you have to know what you're looking for. And to me, that's kind of, part of the professional fun. When I look at insurance policies, they're kind of like a puzzle, and it makes sense to me, but I know everybody doesn't view things the same. So we want to break it down. I think there's a lot of power in casual yet meaningful conversation, right? We can dumb it down when needed, but we can make sure that everyone's on the same page. And we know the size of the checks that people are cutting in terms of paying their premiums. The least we can do is make sure everyone's on the same page and we feel good, because it's all about peace of mind, right? We want you to be able to go to bed at night knowing your property is properly taken care of.
And not only that, if something does happen, you need to be back in business so you can continue to make some revenue. So it's good to know you're covered.
Absolutely. And when you think about it too, from a risk management standpoint, if you're keeping things in order and you have a strategic plan and you're allocating funds where you need to, that translates to a better guest experience as well. So it's not all insurance. It's, again, that large scale risk management approach. It's hands-on. It starts with walking properties and uncovering things and really being viewed as an extension of the team. That's when the partnership can be fun. That's when the partnership can have great impact as well.
Oh, great. Well, Matt, I sure appreciate your providing us with all of this information. Get a lot of food for thought. Would also thank all of our viewers on YouTube. If you want to stay involved in the resort industry, go to resorttrades.com, subscribe to our weekly e-newsletter, and give us a call. Marla's phone numbers are there at the bottom if you're interested in advertising. I know Matt's firm are in our membership directory, and we appreciate that very much, Matt. Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you. So with that, you have any closing comments or?
No, I mean, I think the only thing I would wrap up with is just have these conversations. Again, I know it might not be the most exciting thing. Insurance will rarely rank on your morning to-do list, but it is very important. And, the conversation can really evolve much, further and a lot deeper than just your insurance program. It's about risk management. It's about being proactive. And that's something that, we can really help with. So whether it's us or your current insurance professionals, push back, ask questions, have conversations. And I'll tell you right now, good things will come from it.
All right, Matt. Well, thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Thank you.